And this morning is about, who are you? Do we really know who we were created to be? You know that most of our lives we've been told we're not enough. We've been lied to and continue to be lied to that we're insignificant. That can feel very defeating when we think that we have no power to make a difference in the world when the world we love is in upheaval. We've abdicated our power to other people. So it's been that way for a long, long time, and we've all just fallen in step and learned to be passive, learned to be bystanders, because we think we have no power to make a difference. Any of you ever feel that way? We ignore the news or the disharmony because we can't do anything about it anyway, right? The inequities that we see, the things that we see happening will disturb us, but we just don't get into the fray because we've all kind of decided what's the use. And we know that's not the answer. And yet, we don't know what the answer is. Last week, when I was contemplating what I wanted to talk about this morning, I got a survey in the mail. Some of you have probably gotten it as well. It was a questionnaire, and it asked me on this survey, it asked me questions about how I feel and what I think of all the chaos that's going on in the world right now. There were specific questions about specific issues. The title of the survey was Fighting Hate in America. All the questions involved issues like, what do I think that big organizations should do to change it, to fix it? And were these big companies doing enough? Some of the organizations that I should critique or expect them to help us, for the federal government, Twitter, Instagram, internet companies, law enforcement organizations, both federal and state, and political parties. And I looked at it and I just thought, this is a good example of how we have been taught subtly to abdicate our power by turning the problem over to someone else to solve. And how's that been working for us? We haven't had too many solutions. Those big companies have their own agendas. They have their own ideas. And very rarely do we find a company that has our best interests at heart. I was glad I got the survey though, because it reminded me the truth of who we are, who we really are, and who we've forgotten that we are, and the power that we really have as individuals. Every one of you, every one of us, all have power. It was created in us. It's in us. Somehow, it's easy for us to forget. But within us all, there's a power that's capable of changing our own world, thereby changing the world around us. That power's in us all. How often have you been taught that in your life? How often have you heard that in your life? The power that you have that's within you. So as I contemplated the survey and decided I needed to talk about that, I realized that it starts with us. We have to let go of all the lies we've been told and all the lies that we've told ourselves about our lack of power and take back our power. The truth is, we have no idea who we were born to be. We have no idea who we truly are. We have no idea how to harness the energy that we have been created with. We have no idea how to use it for good in our own lives and in our world. Long ago, we abdicated our power and gave it over to the government and to other authority figures who wanted actually to take away our power. As I was thinking about what I wanted to say this week, I thought of the quote by Margaret Mead. You know, Margaret Mead was an anthropologist. I think she was born in 1901 and died in 1978. She was quite a powerhouse. And she was an activist who worked for equality all of her life. She acted, she made her whole life the activism of her whole life. She made that about the responsibility that we all have to make the world a better place than when we found it. One of her famous quotes, and she has many, one of her famous quotes that I always love is, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." In a longer quote or a speech by her, she pointed out, after she made that quote, she pointed out that one of the good examples was the 13 people who changed the world by giving us our independence, by giving us the United States of America and the freedom that it took. And the original 13 people were the ones who got together and decided what it probably ought to look like. So I really would like you to think today about what I'm saying, and I want you to think about it long after today, because I'm about to tell you something. Some of you may have heard this and know it, but I truly believe, and many people do, that you and I chose this time to be born. And when we chose this time to be born, we were prepared for it. We live in a totally orderly world. Your birth, my birth, we're not random events. There aren't any accidents. Remember, we talked a week or two ago about the perfection in this world. But once we got here, once we were born, and we came here to do amazing things, we were adulterated by those who were in power to make us understand that they were the power, not us. Sadly, we believed it because these people were our superiors, our seniors, our caregivers, our teachers, sometimes our parents. And we depended on them to guide us in the right direction. But I want to say it again. There are no accidents in nature. You came here at this time, on this planet, fully equipped with all the wisdom and sight that you need to have to know and to do whatever you came here to do. always have that balance in the planet of the good and the not so good. And I believe you wouldn't be sitting in these chairs here today if you had not come here to make the world a better place. There's no better place than unity to be reminded and to be engaged in how to do that. Everything you'll ever need, everything you ever need to choose to do, all of that's already in us. It doesn't come from out there anywhere. It's in us, and it's waiting to be called forth from within us by us. You're up to the task, and you're being called now to make the world a better place than we're living in, and leave it a better place when we go. And I emphasize again, you're more than enough. All that you have experienced in this lifetime has not been an accident. It has made you more than enough to make a huge difference on this planet. Does that feel like overwhelming? I don't want to do that stuff. But it is ours to do. You're here by divine appointment. You're here to do amazing things. You're here to heal the planet. It's the reason we all chose this incarnation at this time. And you brought the power and the guidance with you. Everything you need to do the work you came here to do is inside of you. And that guide that lives inside of us, Jesus called it the still small voice. It's that wisdom, that divine wisdom. That's why we meditate, to go within and get the messages. That guide that lives in us is powered by truth and wisdom. Truth and wisdom and love are the greatest powers on this planet. And our energy is being guided by that, by the love, the truth, and the wisdom. Yet, most of us tend to shy away from that kind of power, kind of work, because we fear we're not enough. We fear we're not adequate. And we have a fear of failure. Most people accept that. It seems like a big job. So all of our inner fears kind of stop us. But in 2012, Marianne Williamson wrote a book called Return to Love. How many of you have read Return to Love? If you haven't, put it on your list for the very next book. In this book, Marianne Williamson has this quote, and you will have heard it. It's been attributed to other people, but it is hers. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be? Brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous. And then she asks, actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people will not feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us all, It's not just in some of us, it's in every one of us. And as we let our own light shine, we subconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So how do we access that? We all have that power in us. How do we access it? How do we use it to benefit our own lives and the greater good of the world around us? It doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are. This power is in us waiting to be called forth. So, when I do these lessons, I like to do a how-to for you. I like to give you some ideas about how to put these things into practice. So the first thing I want to say is we have to allow ourselves to believe that what I'm saying to you this morning is true. It's important to remember that we are the voice of love and the voice of reason. And that's why you did come here today. You came, your soul brought you here today to hear this message. No accidents. It's important that we know that there are forces at work in our world that oppose and fear the virtues of love and truth and wisdom, freedom, kindness, and equality. We're reminded of it every day. And yet we have the power that speaks up and says, there's a better way. It's up to you and me to say, there's a better way. There's no need for suffering. God did not create suffering. That's the old idea of God created Satan and God created suffering. God is only good. God is love. God did not create suffering. Anything absent love is absent God. Let me say that again. Anything that is absent love is absent God. In God's creation, God and love is all there is. And when we call that forth in us, that spirit that's been created in us, then we are in alignment with that love and that God energy. And anything opposite that is created in the mind of man. And it's pretty much all we need to know. We can go back to that touchstone every time. If it's not love, it's not God. That's the beacon that we need. It always lights our way. It always guides us to this power that is waiting to be released from within us to do good in our lives and in the world. That was the first thing I want you to remember for your how-to. The second thing is to remember that you are energy. We talk about this almost every week. You are energy. Your energy field extends out beyond you. So we have three energy fields. The first energy field is your etheric energy. It is your immediate energy field. So I want you to do an experiment this morning. Wish more people were here to hear this. But let's do an experience. Get out of your chair and get apart from each other enough to put your hands out like this in front of you. Notice now the distance between your arms at your shoulders and your fingertips. That's how far out your personal energy extends in front of you. Now imagine doing this behind your back, and it's the same amount of energy behind your back. Now do it this way. This is your energy to the side of you. So when you do this to the front and the side and the back of you, that is how your own field of energy makes a difference when you walk in a room, when you have anything to do with anybody else. So you can go ahead and sit down now. But make a mental note of that distance and see it in your mind's eye. That energy that you just extended out, that's how far your own energy reaches out to those around you. You ever notice when somebody walks in a room that you don't have anything to do with? They don't have to say a word. You pick up their energy. This is what you just saw of yourself and your energy span is an immediate influence on everyone you encounter. It's an immediate influence on everyone you encounter. So what would you like that influence to be? Doesn't matter whether it's your spouse, your family, your neighbors, the people you work with, people at the grocery store. How you feel and what you think the mood you're in and the love you feel or the anger you feel. If you think that no one knows that, you're wrong. We read people's energy before we hear their words. Even animals and plants feel your energy. I know you've all heard about that. If you love your plants and talk to your plants and baby your plants, they grow a whole lot better, a whole lot greener, a whole lot stronger. Animals as well. Your animals read your energy. And animals have an amazing energy as well. So the next time you feel anger or you feel upset in some way, just remember everybody around you is going to be affected by it. You can think about it at the time, switch back on to the love thing, and switch back to caring for the people and the animals and the plants and whatever around you, because you are making a difference in the world just by showing up in whatever energy that you have chosen. Never forget that energy that you just saw created is a mighty influence on other people. And it's also what you're creating in the quantum field, what you're putting out into the quantum field to come back to you. So by the way, that's why I love it when you all sit up close, because I pick up your energy. I feed off of your energy. So I love it when you all are here on Sunday. I talked to an empty room for 10 months, and that was no fun at all. So I love it when you're here. So your second energy field is a little bigger. It's the energy field of your home, of your workplace, the street where you live, the physical environment that you create. And it extends as far as your eyes can see. That energy is also an influence in the world. It's why you, my board members, know that I'm very picky about what goes on in this church, because everything that goes on in the energy of this church says who we are. We don't keep it clean, we don't keep the yard clean, if we don't, it shows up as energy. And it says a lot about who we are and who we're not. And your third energy field, that's the larger energy field that is influenced by everything that exists, and you're part of that as well. However, you want to remember everyone else is in that same big energy field. That's where you're picking everyone's energy. Some people call that the collective consciousness. In this book that I was reading about this energy field, it's called the mind field, M-I-N-D, the mind field. You can influence that field with your mind. You can interact with this field in such a way that your energies mingle and influence others as they influence yours. And that's a place where we can allow it or not. When we pick up negative energy, we don't have to stay there. We don't have to be a part of it. We get to choose that. That's why it's really good to be aware of your boundaries and to have good boundaries, so you do not let other people who don't have the same love and intention and truth and wisdom as you, to not let them in to your field of consciousness. In this book, it said that every thought and action and decision or feeling creates an eddy into the interlocking, interbalancing energy fields of life. It is often called the collective consciousness, where all mind fields exist. This is where we have to be careful to choose what we take from that energy field and what we leave behind. Because when the thought and the feelings of others enter into your mind energy, there will be one of two results. Either your energy field will be increased or it will be decreased. And consequently, if it's decreased, it will be contaminated. The way that others think and radiate their thoughts can impact us. And the reverse is true. So you can, yourself, positively or negatively, influence others as well. Of course, that could be another whole series of talks on the many ways that we influence not only ourselves and our collective consciousness, but the atmosphere that we live in. The book that I've been quoting recently, right here, just now, is Wayne Dyer's book titled, "There's a Spiritual Solution for Every Problem." In this book, he tells a story of the power of our mind, with the story of a young woman who developed some rash-like bumps on her face that would not go away. She had gone to Maui and she had gotten in a hot tub, and after that, she had gotten some sort of bacteria on her face, and doctors for a couple of years couldn't find a cure. This red, ugly rash that she had gotten they could not find a cure. But she found a doctor in Maui who said, "You can talk to that rash on your face." So she said she thought it was a little strange at first, but she thought, "I'll try anything." So she went home, and for 3 days, she decided to talk to the rash on her face. She never said what she told it. She kind of kept that secret. But I've heard of this before, and I know that one of the things, if you're talking to your body about anything you would like to release and let go of, you tell it that it no longer serves you, and you release it in love and let it go. You can also thank it for what it came to teach you. So she continued this practice of talking to this awful rash on her face for 3 days. And she said 3 days later, she and her brother went surfing. And somehow or other, when she was surfing, she felt her face and she didn't feel the bumps anymore. When they got home and she looked in the mirror, they were gone. That's the power that we have. And I'm sure you've all read books, but the power that we have when we talk to our body This is how Myrtle Fillmore healed herself, by talking to her body. She was sent home to die. And for 2.5 years, every day, for 2 hours a day, she locked herself in a room. She let her mother-in-law take care of her little boys, and she talked to her body head to toe. 2 years later, she was completely healed. She was never sick again, and she died at 94. And she just told him at the Silent Unity where she worked and that she led, she was going home and she wouldn't be back. 3 weeks later, she was dead. The power of our mind is mind-boggling. We just need to know the gift that it is to us. There's only one power, God. And that is only good. God is good. That's our first unity principle. One power, God, the good. There's no alternative to that. There's no Satan, there's no devil. There are people who do the wrong things. There's no entity that brings that upon us. It's a choice we get to make. Remember that all you are is energy, and your energy is a mighty influence on the world around you. So these are the things I'm kind of recapping that I've already talked about for you to remember. You have the power to change the fear or the anger in a room just by how you choose and use your thoughts. And so you ask yourself, will you be a force for good, or will you be a force for fear and anger and doom and gloom? You have that choice moment to moment. But remember, you can change someone's entire day without ever saying a word, just by being present. You ever do that at the grocery store? You ever do that with people? Be present to them. It makes a difference. And the third thing I'd like you to take away today is that we must remember that the power of love in our thoughts can change the course of energy. Course of a river, or a tornado, or a rain cloud. You can do that with your mind. You have to learn how. But that's how powerful we are. We have no idea the power that we have. There's one more story that I'd like to tell that was in Wayne Dyer's book. It's a story of a dad, or he told that story. He had a family, 4 children, had a wife. One of his 4 girls had taken the wrong path. She'd gotten in the wrong crowd, and the crowd had certainly affected her energy, but not only had it affected her behavior and her energy, it affected the whole family. That toxic energy of those people she was hanging around with had affected her. And the dad said that angry outbursts and bouts with drugs and alcohol were common in their home, and that she would stay out all night. And she would not agree with her family to change the downward spiral that she was in. She wouldn't leave the tough gangs that she hung around with. Her lifestyle was destroying her family, and the mom and the dad had no idea what to do. Plus, they saw how quickly her own life was deteriorating. But there's a lesson here, and the dad got it and understood it. The lesson was that resolving conflicts and solving family problems, or problems in any relationship, from the contamination of our broader energy fields, that third energy field we were talking about. That is never between, this was what he discovered, the problems in any relationship from the contamination of our broader energy fields in life are never between you and those that you're in conflict with. It's always between you and God. Or you could substitute that, it's always between you and love. You can't counteract a lower, heavier, contaminated energy. You have to radiate from a higher spiritual energy in order to dissipate the negativity that you're in conflict with. So that was an aha for him. And one night, in one of their heated discussions, the dad realized in a brief moment that he was doing it all wrong. He realized it's between him and God and not between him and his daughter. So he began to shift, and he began to go within to see how he could bring the love into his life and have it be between him and God and not be at odds with trying to change the energy of his daughter. So he worked on that for a while. And the next time the daughter came home late and the confrontations began after one of her outbursts, he noticed that something shifted in her. And in the middle of that, she said she was ashamed that she had stayed out so late again, and that she felt badly about it. And then after a few moments of silence, she reached out her arms and she said, "Dad, could I have a hug from you?" He thought about it and he thought, can I be loving to one who's being so angry and disrespectful? And then he realized, yes, I have to do that. I have to shift to the God as the answer, to our God as the answer. So he immediately reached out his arms and held her close, and that began to shift the entire relationship with the daughter into the higher energies of love and compassion. Even though he said in the story it shifted slowly, it didn't happen overnight. But when he could realize himself that it was not about him and her influence in that gang she was with, it was about him and God. Now, put love in its place, put good in its place. God and love and good are all synonymous. But it's a great illustration of how our higher spiritual energy will shift the relationship that we're in when we can realize where the relationship really lies. And that what we see around us is a component of the healing. When we can see something differently, the scene and the environment will change. And this is what shifted for the dad. When you observe the negative, it is only your own negativity that you're seeing. You know that. We talk about that mirror. When I'm looking out here and I see something I don't like, it's because it's in me. There's a mirror in me somehow, and that's what I have to heal in me. So when I see something different, the scene that I'm looking at changes. The environment will change. We're only looking at our own reflection. If it weren't in us, we wouldn't be able to recognize it. That's another reason to keep our energy field impeccable. No matter what is going on around us, it's our own energy field that we are responsible for. And that's the power. That's a power that is amazing, that we don't even know we have. So I'm going to recap. There's only one power. It's God the Good. That's our first unity principle. Remember, you are only energy, and your energy is mighty in the influence of the world around you. You have the power to change the fear or anger in a room just by how you choose your thoughts. So ask yourself, will I be a force for good and God, or will I be a force for fear and anger, doom and gloom? It's a question we get to ask ourselves many times a day, every day. It's like that gyroscope that brings us back to the truth of who we would like to be and who we want to be in the world. And 3, we want to remember that the power of love in our thoughts can change the course of an energy, can change the course of a relationship, or the course even of a river or a tornado or a rain cloud. You know, there's stories about May Rowland, who was, after Myrtle died, she was the director of silent unity at the school for many, many years. And she used to, and there's, that's Tornado Alley, Missouri, up there where the school is Tornado Alley. We heard the tornado sirens almost every day during that season, all the time. And we had to all go to the base of it every time. But May would go over to the door and she would start sending love to the tornadoes. They said sometimes the tornadoes would look like they were coming right straight for the school. And she would just go over and she would just send them all kinds of love. And we don't need you. You need to go where there's nobody. You don't need to come over here. She would talk to the tornado, and they've never been hit by a tornado at the school. And the school's been there since 1929. So there's something to this energy thing. So just remember that your energy and how you choose to use it, what you choose to create from it, and how you would like to shift it when you see it not going in the direction that you would like, makes a huge spiritual difference, not only for yourself, but for the world. That's who you are. Let's take that now into a time of meditation. Just to lay things aside and take a deep breath or 2 or 3 and spend a few moments thinking about what we've reflected on and looked at here today. Just ask yourself how you feel. How do I feel about knowing what a powerhouse I am? Does that intimidate me, or does that give me pause to see that I can do, and I can change, and I can make a difference, that all I need is already within? When I come to that realization of the power that I have within me, that I came at this time for the purpose of making changes on our planet, just ask yourself, how could I do that? What's mine to do? How could I choose and use my thoughts to make a difference in this world? Ask yourself, will I be a force for good? Will I choose truth and wisdom, knowing that that is where the power lies? Will I have a boundary to not become caught up in fear and anger, doom and gloom. Who am I, and who have I come here to be? In this day, in this moment, where do I want to shift, and how do I want to show up differently? What more can I do? I choose to use the power that I've been given. I choose to be a force for good, not only in my own life, the lives of my family, my friends, but also the world around me, the world at large. Each one of us has something that we would reflect on and find that we would be interested in making a difference. Find what that is for you. Change and shift your own energy field to make a difference in your life and in the greater world around you. Know that it's always there. Know that you can call it forth. Know that it's a part of who you were created to be. And in this moment, give thanks for the truth of that. Continue after you leave here today, asking yourself, where and how can I make a difference? How can I show up as love? The answer will come. You will know. When you ask, you always receive. So make a commitment as you leave here today and you go back out into the world, that you will continue to think about the truth of who you are and what you can contribute and what made you come here. Is a special idea in your life to change. So give thanks. And so it is. Amen and amen.